good.
Okay, excellent. Hi, Parker, and others who are watching. So one of the things I wanted to bring up with facilitating, well, for those of you who were here, let's do a quick summary. What were some of the things about facilitating that we talked about last time? Some of the, maybe the highlights.
We talked about how facilitating basically means to make it easier. This is what I took away from it. It makes to make it easier. You're trying to, I guess, facilitate the path between the students learning, or what the teacher wants them to learn, and what the students actually learn. And they're kind of grow.
Good. Okay. Any other takeaways about facilitating we talked about last time?
It's also to organize it in the steps that are obtainable.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
You have to actually break it up into like baby steps or things that actually can be synchronized out to where they're accomplished. I can't just like go build a website overnight. I have to do the steps required, the necessary things on that. Facilitating is making those available, opening up those steps and say, okay, this is step one, this is step two.
And sometimes even allowing the learner to discover what those steps are. Because sometimes we might view something as step one and step two and step three, but they may have another way of doing it. And so to them, it's actually step three and then one and two. But still ends up with a similar or maybe even better outcome. So I think we have to be careful with how prescriptive we get with the learning experience. One of the things that I wanted to mention was we talked about an objective, that whenever we plan, we talked about lesson planning, that we need to have an objective or an outcome that we want. Well, a lot of times, like today, what I wanted to invite you guys to think, what do you think is the outcome or the objective of today's lesson or lessons? So throughout the day, we want you to think about that. And this is one technique, one way of doing it, is to allow the students to come up with the objective, what they thought the objective, because what Kellen thought the objective was for him might be different than it was for Kelsey, because we see things differently. And we're going to be talking about that as part of chapter 5 today, how we view the world. And so that's one way of doing it. Or you could just flat out say, the purpose of today's lesson is about this. This is what I hope that by the end of this lesson you should be able to do this. And you might have, and it's good to state that. Out the way. It's good to state that sometimes for people, because a lot of times it's like, well, what am I doing in class today? Okay, so, but today, we want you to kind of share what you think the outcome or the objective of today's lesson was. So you want to start out with objectives and purposes. Okay. Any questions or other comments, any takeaways that you guys had from last time about facilitating? Haley?
To facilitate a idea that is interesting to the audience, that can be helpful.
Okay, how do you know it's interesting?
Because you can maybe use it in your life, or it's not necessarily something that everybody would know.
Okay. And one way that you might consider doing that is to say, hey, this is how I would use it. How would you use this principle? We talked about the difference between theoretical and personal application. The idea of this is a good thing, you know, eating healthy foods, that's a good thing, but that doesn't mean that we're personally applying it. So helping the learner to say, hey, okay, why is this important? And then saying, why is this important for you?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get the difference between theoretical and personal application, where you're actually diving into the personal. Other comments? Stood out last time? Well, I think that's a good transition then. Let's Rob, you want to dive into, and I'll just switch spots with you. We're going to talk about, for those of you who do have a book, go ahead and pull it out. We're going to cover a couple things from chapter 5. If you don't, that's fine. We hope that you'll take notes. Rob may draw something on the board, or...
Do you want me to stop this?
No, we'll record it for... Keep going. And remember, food's okay. You can eat food in here. So I'm saying that because I'm justifying my own eating right now.
I hate that thing can't go down. Okay.
And again, we want you to think about what we're modeling. Not that what we're doing is always perfect all the time, but we're going to try to model different ways different techniques you can use to facilitate.
Everybody can read that, right? It's high enough. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, it's called the self system, and it's there in chapter 5. Does everybody have a book close by? Something right here. Does anybody have a book yet? Sorry about that.
I think one person does.
Yeah.
It's mine right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about some words that some people may not know yet. If you guys want to share that camera, yeah, we're kind of peek. So does anybody, I'm going to start with the one that I feel most comfortable with, and that's the one that's at top, self-efficacy. Has anybody heard of that, or does anybody have an idea what that means? No?
Oh, self means.
Self means, that's good, that's good.
So the word ethics?
So efficacy,
Oh.
so the top one. So it comes from the word of like efficiency, is the way that I see it. So it's the way it's, in the book it talks about, it's the power or capacity to produce a desired effect. And also just to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So there are lots of people that are very effective or efficient in specific tasks. Some people, math, writing, sciences, history, different things like that, that they're masters at. And so it's really easy for them to do those things. Like for me, I really enjoy math. But English, on the other side, I am horrible at writing papers. I can write and write and write, and I can get my ideas out, and they'll totally make sense to me. And then I'll have my wife proofread them, and she'll be like, what are you trying to say here? This grammar is absolutely horrible. This should be this should be that, and it's just bad. Okay? So I'm very self-efficient, and I have strong self-efficacy with math, but with English, I do not. And the thing is you don't have to be a master at everything. It's not trying to raise your self-efficacy in every single aspect of life. It's just understanding where those are at. Why do you think it'd be important to understand those?
If you don't know where you're at, how can you improve?
Right.
Like honestly, like you're just deluding yourself if you think you're really good at something when you're not.
Anybody else? Why do you think it would be important to know, if you're in a group, let's say you're in a group setting, the self-efficacy of the group, of different individuals in the group?
Well, depending on where, the other individuals are, you could be the strongest one in that specific area, and you could help learn or help teach that in that specific area. Like you like going to the math lab, that's what you like to do. You like to teach it to other people, and being self-efficient in that is actually really, it promotes your strengths and helps other people know that they can count on that efficiency for you.
Excellent. Anybody else? What if you're a leader over a group of people? Like I'm in this situation right now where I have a group of people that I lead, and I still don't know all of their strengths. But what benefit would that, knowing every single group member's strength that you're actually personally leading? Anybody have an idea? Go ahead.
I think there's a massive benefit to it. If you are a leader, you want to be able to maximize all the desired outcomes, and by knowing who your team members are, you can put them where they will succeed at, and they'll feel better about it, and they'll be better at it. Plus, the overall synergy of the group will become better as well.
Perfect. Like I know with the group that I have some people, I'm over publicity and all this stuff. I know some people on my team that are very tech savvy. So you better believe I know what I'm going to use them for. I have some people that are very good people, if that makes sense. So I know what they can do to help the whole group excel in a way that we all want to get to. Okay? So that's why understanding your self-efficacy is important. Not only what you're strong at, but also what you're weak at. And understanding that, knowing that, and being okay with that. Okay? The next, we'll talk about self-esteem. And now we're going to get into the deep, dirty secrets of Rob Dollar. Okay? I struggle at these other two things quite a bit. Okay? So self-esteem talks about your ideal self versus your real self. What do you guys think that means? Ideal self? What would that be? Still this table. Darren likes to walk. I like to sit. Okay. Ideal self?
How you want to be.
Yeah.
What you want to be. What you, the big picture, the end picture of what you see, the potential that you see in what, essentially, exactly what you want to be. Okay?
Then a question about that. Is Tyson's ideal self the same as Amber's ideal self? And so how is it that you've constructed what is ideal for you? And not that you need to answer that, because that's a big question. But I think we need to be aware of how we've constructed what is ideal for us.
So with that, are you saying not measuring yourself up to anybody else, but just you?
Because we all have different lenses. I mean, we could talk Covey principles here as well. It's a lot of the same principles said a little differently. But we've all been conditioned in certain ways. We've all been raised in certain ways, have had certain experiences that have constructed what is that ideal, and what